Good day, and welcome to another episode of Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist, another light in this darkened world. I'm your host, Penny L.A. Shepherd, and I am Agent X11. My co-hosts are David Dublik, Heather Day, Joan Renee, Skip Press, Chris Montgomery, Terry Bradley, Katie Bradley, Tom Outhouse, Jessica Garza, Howard Lamson, Dr. Keith Pablo, and TJ Ward.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist, begins now. And welcome to another episode of Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist. My name is Penny L.A. Shepherd, and I am Agent X11. If you want to know why, you're actually probably going to have to Google me. This is going to be a special edition that we have today. I'm joined by Joan Renee, by Brian Singh, Solar Bee. Let me put him in the middle. And this is Brian Singh Presents by Brian Bowden, who we've kidnapped, and there is no ransom because otherwise that'd mean that we were going to give him back. Dr. Weeping You, that's right, Dr. Weeping You, Steven Sanchez, and our guest today, Antonia Lau, which I kept calling Antonia. I don't know why. And so this particular segment is with Dr. Weeping You. It's called Dr. Yu's Universe. And we're exploring a lot of different things. We're exploring physics. We're exploring spirituality. We had an opportunity on Brian Singh Presents last week to interview Antonia Lau. And please forgive me if at some point I call you Antonia. I don't know why. Okay, this is like a glitch in my head. And she's an extraordinary individual. This is going to be an opportunity for Dr. You and for Steven Sanchez. We're going to turn the tables and let them ask some questions and do some interviews. So, Antonia, I'm going to thank you very much for joining us. And why don't you tell us just a little bit about you? Because I have another intro to play, which is very short, but it is Dr. Yu's Universe. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I was born psychic, and I am a metaphysical spiritual teacher now for over 50 years. I am a world-known psychic. I talk about people's lives as well as the future, and I also teach a quantum method of bioenergy healing for many, many years. So I believe in the balance of mind and body and soul in all things.
Yes, and we also, the reason why you were brought in was Brian Singh. I had said we need somebody that can actually move energy and has kinetic abilities, and Brian Singh suggested you. So we did interview you last week, which is just a wonderful interview, and we're going to promote your website as well so that people can find you. And then you also do another thing regarding building bunkers.
Actually, it's for community because I was guided, divinely guided, many years ago to study the major earth changes that are natural and normal and to find safe, sustainable communities for worldwide. And so I am to build at least 22 safe, sustainable communities for these events to not only survive, but to thrive and rebuild for generations to come. I was guided in the information, did the deep research, and continue to research and to bring that to those that, how can I say it, have no fear about the changes and that have no fear about losing themselves, but want to help as many others to recreate the world the way it was intended in the first place.
That's amazing. Well, right now we're going to start Dr. Yu's Universe.
Woo, ooh, it's Dr. Yu. Woo, ooh, it's Dr. Yu. Woo, ooh, it's Dr. Yu. Dr. Yu's Universe. Yeah. Spin on a cosmic ride. No up, no down, no left, no right. Dr. Yu's got stars in sight. We welcome you to Dr. Yu's Universe. Where planets sing and comets dance. Tune into you. He's broadcasting from a cosmic trance. Ooh, it's Dr. Yu. Welcome to Dr. Yu's Universe. Whoa. We all strangers in a strange land. Whoa. In the universe of stars and sand, where everything exists but not. Get ready to shout. What? Ooh, it's Dr. Yu. Ooh, it's Dr. Yu. Ooh, it's Dr. Yu. Dr. Yu's Universe. Yeah. Nothing is what you thought you'd find. Get ready to adjust your mind. Forget all that you have read. Get maximum room, make space in your head. Welcome to Dr. Yu's Universe, where time does not exist. Listen to Dr. Yu. He's phoning in from Earth number 2. Yeah, he's calling from the cosmos just for you.
And we are back. So, Antonia,
Yes.
I know that these guys are going to have a lot of questions for you. Tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Yes. As a child, I was raised with an academic-based family. You got nothing but the best grades, and it was easy. We were trained early from 2 years old to read. First grade readers are what 6-year-old would read. But we weren't entered into school into first grade. She thought that kindergarten was a waste of time, but we were studying, and our books to study, she never answered a question, were the encyclopedias, the Webster's Dictionary, and Gray's Anatomy. And so we would pour into those. And by the time I was 5, I was recognizing I was picking up a lot of psychic information. And I would wake up that day and the phone would ring, and that person that had called would be discussing what had just happened in my dream or telling the people, the family about it. So I recognize, I used to read a book a week as a child. At 7, I had the library card, loved it. But by 9, I started to go to the adult section to read everything I could on esoteric sciences, metaphysical spiritual studies, parapsychology, and how can I say it, to get as much of that as I can. At 11, I started trying Uri Geller's method of telekinesis. And that was very effective as I kept straining my physical side to focus and concentrate. One day on a pencil on the table to roll into my lap was the command. I'm so concentrating that it strained and hurt. I realized it can't be that much of concentration. So I took a breath and relaxed, and the pencil, 5-sided, rolled once toward me, then a second time toward me, and then each time it would stop. And then the third time it rolled in my lap with no other instruction than just mentally. And so my mother's husband took out the the spool of thread and put the needle in and took a piece of paper and folded it into 4 on top of the needle and put a glass on top of it. So, okay, now move this. Because he was aware of spiritual energy. He had been serving as a naval sailor and knew about the Philadelphia experiment and all these things. And so I was also reading at that time The Third Eye by Tilapsang Rampa and learning about all the, how can I say, the studies around the world throughout our historic future. But I knew that God would not give a little girl this kind of a gift for nothing. I knew it needed to be utilized for the benefit to serve mankind. And so I've sought that time to, I have all the certifications and degrees and all that big deal. We have to continue growing and learning for the benefit of the collective. We are here to serve everyone on the planet, mentally, physically, and spiritually, especially at this time of great change, Penny. And everyone here, we all notice and sense we are part of that great change, mentally, physically, and spiritually. What I notice is most people forget the spiritual part. So as an adult, I continued my studies, but I noticed that the telekinesis was kind of, during my pregnancy, after my marriage, I got pregnant and I noticed it was just doing its own thing. And I asked to be taken away just for a moment until I could handle not causing safety to the child that was going to be born, and then to bring it back. But objects were moving. If I thought about it, it would move to the table. It would move to the inside of the refrigerator. A flashlight would appear. It would be crazy if I just thought it. The TV in those days, when it rolled and got out of crazy, the horizontal lines, I would just blink and it would, clear. And so ultimately, I made sure that I wasn't going to harm my child with this. And then I started to utilize it more and more. I started to do readings in the 1970s. I've done over 50,000 readings. That was a low estimate for clients around the world. I have a high referral base because of the level of accuracy, but it's to reach their soul. And apparently I had found that I had not incarnated for apparently over 600 years, or actually many hundreds of years, studying divine universal law, and had promised this lifetime to utilize these gifts and talents and abilities to help the soul growth of humankind, individuals as well as all of the collective. So my hope is to continue to do so, to complete the mission.
Stephen, do you have a question or comment?
Oh, you're still muted, Stephen.
There it is. Yeah, that's very fascinating. I have an interesting question, and you probably can elaborate on this one. It's interesting where science, even Dr. You would confirm this, in science world, we're merging this technology because we're getting so, you might say, inquisitive on the actual physicality of what we're dealing with in the sciences and stuff like that. I got some kind of considerable cultivation background myself, and I'm seeing from this perspective, it's interesting how the world of the unseen, I wouldn't call it the psychic, but everything, like what you call it, exclusive and inclusive at the same time, is now merging, and it's beautiful to see the world of academia is now including and documenting and incorporating the possibility of these phenomenon. It's absolutely profound. I mean, you probably can attest, you can see it from a different space, you know what I mean? And I want to know if you could elaborate on that, because that would be a really fascinating thing. I mean, physics isn't what we think it is. It's pretty profound.
I'm glad you brought that up. And you do remind me so much of a dear friend that I have that looks so much like you. I was just shocked when I saw your face. But what ends up happening is, remember at the turn of the 19th to the 20th century, doctors didn't wash their hands. They didn't believe that there was a such thing as germ. And for hundreds of years prior, we had all kinds of deaths because they would go through the graveyards to dig and find for anatomy the bodies, and then they wouldn't wash their hands. They go from patient to patient because they didn't see germs. Then all of a sudden, Louis Pasteur and everybody started to look and think, wait a minute, these are movements, and they started to wash their hands. Now you couldn't find a doctor that wouldn't do a surgical procedure without the happy birthday song for the process of cleaning and thoroughly cleaning. But just because they didn't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You don't see air either. But if I hold your nose for about 10 minutes, you're going to be a little upset. So what ends up happening is we have to understand and remember this is part of the human condition that's been suppressed, taken away, and not taught. And this is my whole point, is to start to teach generations ahead in the highest ways how to utilize the full human capacity we have, physically, spiritually, and mentally. All those components. Dr. Yu, I'm sure, noticed that everybody started to go into the nanoparticle world. Finally, they went, how can I say it, to the smallest cells, and then they went to mitochondria, and they went, and they started to be amazed at what they can see. But it's all perception, is it not? And so we're raising our awareness, all of us at this time, to go from the third dimensional level to the fourth and someone to fifth level. We want to make sure we're doing it in a concerted effort for the divine cosmos that we are part of, not just for ourselves, not just for the planet's collective, but how we fit into the whole divine multiverse. That's what we're supposed to be doing at this time.
Wow. Very, very fascinating. Also, I love the movement of science in general starting to incorporate, even in Dr. Yu's theories of the muon and field theory, because the psychics and the mystics, they all knew about energy field, the chi and stuff like that, and how it. I love using my model of the toroid, because we have a toroid field around us. So I brought this up just so I could explain that, because I do a lot of Tibetan and Taoist traditions, and we work with those fields and stuff. And it's so interesting that now the academia is starting to incorporate that. Yeah, there's a real thing here. So yeah, the field theory is like really fascinating, which would attribute, with the moving the objects and stuff like that. It's just all cool. So I just wanted to bring that up too.
I gotta say, Stephen, on that toroidal energy, you just hit my heart. Because as I was asking to be divinely guided to proper, how can I say it, proper facilities for these communities that were safe, I was guided to over 100, and I researched them deeply from around the world, and was guided to this, divinely guided to this particular one that we've come up with, that is a toroidal field inside the units. And so it continues to go through our bodies, but from the earth continuing. And it's, disaster proof, earthquake proof, can be buried, float, all that. And it can be put up in 30 minutes with 3 unskilled people. How can I say, you can have grow drones that yield 1,100 acres of fresh organic food in that dome in a year. So ultimately it has its process to be expanded, but the toroidal field continues to run through the structure and humankind. Yep. I noticed the difference in going to the 12, it takes like 12,000 pounds of dirt for the earth domes to be built by Cal Earth, which is great. And I went and I was sitting in one of the units at a meeting and talking to someone I had brought from France, and they were sitting when we were talking and said, "Do you feel something?" And I said, "Well, yes." And we felt and we recognized we've been sitting for 15, 20 minutes, and the toroidal energy was now enveloping us, going through us. Goosebumps. So it's a very important need for humankind. And I'm sure, how can I say, your work and Dr. Yu has probably seen it through these field storms that we go through, these field levels that we continue to go through. So I've been seeing into 5th dimensional level since about 20. I was seeing into 4th early on from that childhood, at that time before I knew what dimensions were. And so we know, and I mentioned this once before, that Arcturus, Edgar Cayce states, is the highest civilization in the multiverse, with highest spiritualized civilization in the multiverse, with 8 dimensions. We're at 3. Right now we're in the process of going to 4 on Earth and humankind, and some on to 5th dimensional level. And it's amazing because I've been able to see all these things since 11, seeing auric energetic fields, wondering why people didn't see it, all these things. But every human has this capacity, every human. So I think Brian teaches a class or something about that a bit, or and I hope that people develop it, not for an innocuous use ever, but for the benefit, for the collective. What we do to one another, we do to ourselves. People don't get it, but that's what really happens.
Well, you unpacked an awful lot there. And one of the themes that I'm hearing is that you don't do this alone. In other words, you're not an isolated, when you do what you do, it's not isolated. You depend on information coming to you.
Correct.
And you also, so you depend on a higher intelligence that is not separate from, but part of this colloidal field that Stephen talks about. And we need to be in our best environment in order to receive that. So that's where you master maybe that point within yourself that you can quiet things so that you can receive it. Is this making any sense? Because that's what I'm hearing that you're saying.
Yes, we must connect to the divine God, creator, source, force, all there is. Not the arrogance to think we're the only ones that exist in the universe. That's ridiculous. But as we connect, we were made from the divine source, we have that capacity to utilize properly. So I've been meditating an hour at night, an hour in the morning since 1976. And I have my God time, an hour before that, an hour after in the morning to receive the information from the divine. And so, but high souls, not just anybody arbitrarily out there. And so people don't recognize, even Casey, they didn't know that was the most documented seer of the 20th century. And he was a Christian mystic. He read the Bible every year of his life. But what ended up happening was he would do these medical diagnostics without the person in the room. And so the doctors were shocked because how could he know? He'd never met them, and he'd give a cure that would be exceptional and that they'd never heard of. So a gathering of doctors went, I guess it was to New York, and they wanted to see him in this deep hypnotic inducted state. And so he was placed in that state, but one doctor jumped up and stabbed him with a scalpel in the hand. Casey did not move. He did not budge. He stayed in that hypnotic state, giving and delivering that information and diagnostic information that worked for that particular patient he had never met. He did that for some 30 years. But Casey talked on 10,000 topics that are all recorded at the library. But it was for our benefit and our soul growth and evolution to come on, let's meet with the universe. We're a little behind.
So something very interesting with this whole thing
after Brian, Dr. Yu. Go ahead, Brian.
What recently came out in science is a lot of information about consciousness, and the fact that the human body is a generator of plasma. And because we generate plasma, which can be, as we know, everyone, you think of plasma, you think of something visible, some kind of, but it's not always visible. And this is part of the manipulation. You want to call it force, chi, whatever you want to go into the dynamics. Multiple cultures have done it. But when you are with others together that are on the same journey and you connect, it's kind of like, what we were talking about in physics with the yuan and all these little pieces together making up this whole. All you're doing is making the bond and the energy stronger, and it makes it easier because it becomes more fluid. But like you said, with the higher power, there are poles to this. There are, the positive and negative. So there's a lot of physics involved in this, and what Dr. Yu has been talking about on previous shows. And it's just incredible that we have this ability, and we're not even using 3% of our brain.
Correct.
Maybe some people use 5 if you're lucky. So this is great.
2%, Brian. Before Dr. Yu, can I ask everybody to do a little experiment, and Dr. Yu can explain it to you? I'm going to ask you just to try it yourself, that you know that you have this inherent energy that you were born with. Just take your hands and rub them together. Your two hands, and if you choose, rub them together, and then slowly take them apart, just slowly. And you feel something within. And what you want to do is build that little ball of energy to continue. Now, I'm a hard and fast skeptic because of that academic background. There's so much garbage out there. And so I remember seeing someone doing this in the dark, and I saw blue light out of their hands, and I screamed. So just because we can't perceive it or see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but everybody has this energy, and it can be utilized to heal, for knowledge, to put people in a calm state, meditate, all these things, and for knowledge to come that we need to build a better world.
Let me ask you a question. Welcome, Antonia, welcome to the section. I'm looking forward. to learn new things from you. As a physicist, I see everything. I seeking external, physical cause.
Yes.
So I'm not as good as look at the internal, subjective experience. So I believe that's right. So you just mentioned about if I wrap my hand, right? And
Yes.
then slowly, I do feel like some like a soft elastic material pushing my hands away.
Yes.
So that's what I feel. When I practice qigong, I know you know
Yes.
what the qigong, what the I Ching. You know all these things. I
Yes.
watched one video of them. So when I practice qigong, so that's somehow you have to put a certain position, and then you can feel so like your hand holding something, right?
Yeah.
Energy. But that was 30, 40 years ago. But now you said that when I rub my hand, you see the light. I'm not surprised this one because I have a physical explanation. The so-called light. I can create the light by just peel off Scotch tape.
Yes.
You probably saw that video, right? Yeah, there's a video. You as long as you pitch fast enough and dark enough, you will see blue light. That's exactly what we'll see. So in my physical interpretations, light is vibration.
Yes.
So you agree with that, right? When you rub you vibrate.
Yes.
Vibrate actually. One theory is all the particles are magnetic, are charged, are magnetic particles. When you magnetic particle in vibration, so that's where you create the light. So that's my. I have another question for you. Do you see after you said 50 years of psychic experience, right?
Yes.
Do you see your ability evolved, get more advanced, or any changes to your ability?
Yes, I have. I actually, because of my high degree of skepticism, when this started, when I was in my 20s, I said to God, I thought, look, this is somebody's life. You know, I need to have some proof other than just what I'm picking up. And all of a sudden, during the reading, I would see, I'm not kidding, the other person's guide / guardian angel. And I realized that they know the person better than I do. And so I recognize if I just pay good, humble, rapt attention, they're going to show and share me things that I would never know about for that person's greater soul growth and life path. And it happened over and constantly. And each one has a different personality. It's not a loved one or a friend or a relative. They can't be. They can visit. They come on the left side to visit. But a highly advanced, evolved soul that never has to come back to earth school ever again has chosen to put themselves in divine guidance to help all of us get out of here. And so you get to choose when we're granted permission to come back to incarnate, which one that you would like to use, and they're always on the right. Now remember, I didn't believe any of this, so I wanted proof. I tell the universe, prove it. I won't say or espouse anything for about 5 years after even studying and learning it and certifications, unless they prove it. I'm like that. And every time they go, oh, really, Antonia? Knock me in the head 50 million times before I would even believe the existence. Then I would say it's something on a TV show or a radio show or an interview. I've had 4 television development deals. We all went to studio with and all that good stuff for sale. But it wasn't the right timing or the right perception. I didn't care. I just wanted the knowledge out to people. So as a collective, we grow. It doesn't do any good, Dr. Yu, if you and I grow, or the ones here, Penny and Brian, Brent, everybody, if we're just doing it, we have to inspire the collective. And you talked about that energy. That's what everybody carries, and we can feel it with our eyes closed when we walk in the room. When somebody walks in the room, we see their pre-essence or their presence, okay? And all of a sudden we react to that energy field. And I recognize that as a child. I was a very shy child. My mom would make us stand at the front of the store while she was waiting in line with the groceries, oh my God, on a Saturday. And so everybody would stare at these little kids that had to be perfect over by the wall, and I'm thinking, everybody's staring at me. But I recognized something. I would try to make myself invisible, but I recognized something. I recognized, oh, they're actually seeing inside of me, my soul level. So I wanted that to shine, not the external. Okay, not that we had poor jackets or whatever, but we were smart kids. I wanted the internal soul to show. And so at a very early age, 9 or so, I started to work on that soul projection. And I recognized, you're not going to believe this, but I would be introduced to somebody that if I chose, I would go out on a date with. I never saw the person for 3 times of the date, 3 different individual dates. I would feel their energy field. The guides would show me inside the soul of the person. I wouldn't know what they looked like until after the 3rd date. I would start look at their teeth, but eyes are the windows of the soul. But I would just pick up their energy. They'd show me their past lives. The guides would, and I would just make my decision if that was something I determined that I wanted to continue. But it was amazing because all these perceptions we have, all those 6 senses that weren't utilized, I came and utilizing. So my hope is that we continue with the collective to spread this beautiful knowledge and ability. So we enhance. We're playing lower than we really are. We don't have to play that game any longer.
Thank you for the wonderful answer. From my research study, I discovered the universe is everything in your universe is connected through one field.
Yes.
It's not a multi-different field. So this field is made by, I would call this a magnetic field.
Yes.
You agree, right? So right now, physics has an electric field, magnetic field, gravity field, right? And strong wake force, some kind of field. But what I see, entire universe actually connected through only one field, magnetic. What's your, so that means consciousness is a part of what is called awareness.
Yes.
Over this and is through, actually I feel so it's through this magnetic field. So what's your view?
My thought is we are also magnetic, but we are electrical. If you look, I love acupuncture, 5,000 years of excellent medicine. Okay, but they found the meridians go through the human body, and literally those are electrical highways going through us as well. And so they operate, but you would think that modern medicine would have picked up on that, but they're a little slow. They will. But allopathic medicine has to grow. But the point is we are electrical, magnetic, and spiritual energies all combined. And so it's those several things. And I like, Dr. Yu, that you're expanding. People go and they get their education, their degrees, and they stop learning. Till the last draw of breath. We promise the divine universe to continue learning from the right sources, never the wrong, to apply it for the benefit of, as again, the collective. When we grow, they grow. It's like you said, we're all one. That oneness people talk about is exactly that. Yes, we have our nice little individuality, but we still align to the one great source force, all there is, God creator, so to speak, that created the multiverses that we are part of. So I remember, like I said, I couldn't, as a child, I would go into the woods, take a lunch, and go as far as I could walk, and then I would just go sleep on the ground. But I loved it, and I can't go through nature without touching the leaves who have an energy, who have a life, who have an intelligence. Trees, I have a respect for them. I have everything that is on the planet, I have a respect for. What I notice is humans really don't have a deep respect for themselves. We wouldn't treat one another so poorly if we respected ourselves. And so that's what I hope to work on as well, is how can I say, to inspire people to be good to one another. You're doing it to yourself. Thought, thinking, attitude, approach, action. So.
Very good. So I just want to make you aware. When I study physics, yes, one thing I find is the electric field and the magnetic field. They are not only related. I know. Yes. Yes, they are. You have no problem related, yes, but actually, fundamentally, they are the same thing. The difference is magnetic. You can consider is a static static field. You can feel. So like everybody, if you are not moving, you still have this field, right? Electric field is, a physical definition of electric field called time varying magnetic field. So what that means, when magnetic field in motion,
yes,
you create oscillation, you create flow. So that's why when the people ask me, do you believe electromagnetic or magnetic? I would say magnetic is fundamental, but the magnetic in motion create electricity. So yes, electricity is moving motion of that one. So so apparently you have no problem to see the same side of that one.
That's
Yeah.
correct. Oscillation and wave motion is necessary, but we're not taught that. We're all vibrating. We can put
Yes.
it to the table, but we can't. We think we cannot. So
That's right.
exactly.
We're all vibrating. So that's why magnetic, electrical field, the strength, they both create the force. The
Exactly.
magnetic force create the strength is 1 order magnitude. This is 10 times higher than magnetic field. That's exactly what if your computation say take a derivative of a magnet means that you make a magnetic field vibrate.
Yes.
So now you have an order magnitude higher of energy. So that's what the electrical field. Okay, I have another question.
Please.
So do you have a theory about? So you said that you still. I believe you still have this called a kinetic mobility ability even now. Do you still have it?
Yeah. Oh, yes. And I used it, how can I say, for a greater ability to think of what other people, read their minds, but it was boring. Where's my comb? Where's my brush? But I moved it to use it into this divine cosmic healing energy, because this is where it can be highly utilized as and most effective. And so to give you an example of that, I was doing a remote session with a client that was referred to me, that knew about my work. And she was in Louisiana. And she was one of the wealthy French families from long ago. And she had developed cancer. And so I'm doing the healing process for her here, thousands of miles away from her, where I am. And all of a sudden, as I'm sealing the body, all of a sudden I notice, I first check, I use L rods that give me that energy that are custom to my hand, so I can see where the person needs that particular protocol for health. And then I check before I seal the body up in this energetic field that I've just placed. And when I went to finish off, all of a sudden I used the L rods, and by her ear, there was a big cross. That means there's a problem of imbalance in that energy that I had just worked to heal. And I thought, oh my goodness, did she pick up her phone? I told her not to keep the phone 3 feet away. I called her. I said, hello, can I ask you, did you pick up your phone at the end? She said, oh my goodness. She said, yes, my friend called all of a sudden, but I just picked it up briefly, and I told her I'd call her back. I could see it in her auric energetic field thousands of miles away. How can that transpire? Because we have that ability, it can transpire. Goosebumps again, as I'm talking about it. Goosebumps, scientifically called frisson, when the raised skin is on the air. It's not from wind current or air draft. It's from your guide / guardian angel, the divine universe, letting you know what's just been thought about, stated, or said is very important to note or pay attention to. And that just is still continuing to happen as I speak. Back to you. Brilliant question.
Oh, I think, one thing about it, I think you can see people's called aurora, right?
Yes.
Or I would call that every person has a field.
Yes.
Has its own energy field. The energy field is made of, because every single person has a different magnetic profile.
Yes.
So that's why you will see the different field configuration.
Correct.
I believe that when you say you find something ear being blocked, I can tell you probably sensing this person's field changing. Is that right?
Exactly.
When you see the field changing, you can sense over 1,000
Yes.
miles. When you feel the field changing, so you know something physically changing.
Exactly.
I just had a conference, last month. Met one company, the owner, he make a detector, like an electrical magnetic signal to detect the battlefield if enemy put any bomb or something.
Yes.
There. And his device can detect over 100 yards.
Yes.
So I asked, can you detect human energy?
Yeah.
He said, probably so need more sensitive. Apparently, you already have this ability.
Yes.
To detect that. Yeah.
Everybody has the ability. It was given to you at birth.
That's right.
Yes.
Call it God. I'm just rather call it God. God made man.
Yes.
In his image. He has the ability. The reason why you have this ability is because you are destined to do bigger and better things, and also for communication purposes back to God. You don't need to go to a building. You use your pineal and third eye and what was given to you to connect. I do healings on people, and I do it. I used to call it remote viewing. It's healing, but I literally go to someone, and the first thing I do when I get there is I scan them, and I literally it takes place internally in my mind's eye, and I see where they are, and then I will fill them with in with the good, blue in, red out until their whole body vibrates, with that color, and then I surround us all with white golden light. But I mean, just by me, I literally did it to a friend of mine who was a pretty really damn good psychic. And I go and I told her, and I said, "You have what's going on with your neck? You have a thyroid problem." And she went silent. She goes, "Yeah, I never told that to anybody." I'm like, "Yeah, you do. That's where your problem is, because it comes up darker." This is why they use remote viewing and psychic soldiers, whatever you want to call them, on the back end of military and governments, because there's not one thing that can stop you from seeing it except another person putting out a different field. And that's where the energy fields get into play. You can block some of it, but it's amazing what you can do with the healing.
I ended up going, someone convinced me to go to a meeting with David Morehouse, which you're aware of, for remote healing with the government. And I noticed, I just wanted to research how he was teaching it or whatever. And he assumed because I was wearing a black business suit and a white top that I was a witch. And I thought, oh my God, because there's no perception. He's not using perception.
Nope.
And my whole point is I love, Brian, how you bring God in. You have to. And anytime we're doing these abilities or using our abilities that are inherent within every human, just not exercises very often, and greater in some, lesser in others, we're supposed to connect to the divine with gratitude and appreciation and respect. And that's what I noticed wasn't so happening in the remote viewing with the military or the government way. And so I prefer to do it with that divine way. But I had another client, and this is a method I learned from a Russian doctor who has a 95% cure rate with fourth stage cancer. And 4 or 5 1-hour treatments is 1,000% more effective than Reiki Master. And I trained with him since '97. Sent 100 fourth stage patients, all cured. And I sent about 200 to 300 more regular patients, all 2 to 3 1-hour in-person visits. They work stronger in person. And then I've been doing it and teaching it actually since 2015. I have doctors in my class, Dr. Yu. And so it's an interesting thing because they realize this is actual. My son became very ill last year. He was, unfortunately, took the vaccines for his job. But what happened was he became extremely ill in a comatose state. And I went the day, he had, like I said, a major coronary issue, and he was in sedated state. And I thought, oh my God, I've got to do this. So I told the ICU nurse, look, I'm going to use the rods to tell where they cross. It's going to show me where the body needs this healing energy. And then I'm going to put this protocol for that particular organ in the body. And then I'll show you again, it'll spread back when it's full of that healing energy. She looked and she was in shock. Well, apparently the next day of that week, I was there 10 days, 8 nurses came to get their sessions with me because they saw all the monitors around his body change. His cardiologist came and she was very serious in her lab coat from Romania. She says, his heart is stronger. What is it that you were doing? I thought, oh, they're going to arrest me. God, why would you put me in front of in public like this? I won't be able to see my son. I won't, and all of a sudden she said, well, can you show me? And I said, yes. So I took them out and did it for her, diagnosed her exactly where the body needed it, put the energy in. Later, that was in July. Later in December last year, like I said, December 24, she said, have your mother call me on my cell phone to my son. And I thought, okay, text her. And so she said, you remember that? I'd like to take your class. So actually I ended up having to go to train her. It's a 3-day course, whatever, but she was so astute with the manual and everything, and did it, but she didn't tell me till the end. She says, you know that day in July when you worked on me? I said, yes, it was just a short moment. It's usually an hour I work. And so she said, well, you didn't know, but I'd hardly had any sleep that night. And I was not feeling well that day. And I had a very important surgical procedure right after I saw you. She said, I went in there. She said, my mind was like I was 20 years old. She said, I went in and I could do everything. It went flawless. She said I had a ton of energy, and the only difference was I saw you just before I walked into the proscenium. So I love the fact it's not me. I'm transmuting the divine cosmic energy through me for the benefit of that person. I'm not the important one. That client, that patient is important, not me. I'm just transmuting God's cosmic energy. Brian.
So Antonia, given we're now on the subject of energy and healing and being parasensitive, I have to ask you, in this new COVID-19 quote unquote vaccine era, many people are noticing changes in people's personalities and people's energy, and people's attitudes. Rudolf Steiner, so many decades or probably 100 years ago now, he mentioned, or he spoke clearly on, there would come a time when quote unquote modern medicine would be used to try to take away the soul of people, to disconnect us from God. And I was wondering, what have you, with your abilities and sensitivity, noticed in this post-vaccine era?
I've lost 52 people that I know, most in their 50s to 60s. My son passed from, they gave him the wrong medication after the surgical procedure. I've lost my partner 4 years ago through transmission, and two 30-year-olds, one 77 and one 87, that I personally know, 52 total. Now, what I noticed was when I go to scan them, I've never seen this in all these many years since 97. They all have a problem with the thymus, which controls the immune system and our hormonal system, number one. Then they have all, just not the ones that took the vax, just through transmission. It was a bioweapon that was invented. They have problem with the heart. And I've never seen it so apparent in every case. Then I noticed that they're thinking. If they argue, if you have a difference of opinion, it could be over a match. They will argue to the death. So don't. There's a component of that DNA that has been snipped, that is no longer there for compassion. What was interesting about my son, two little things. After he had his, he flatlined twice, and he said, "Mom, I don't know what's wrong." He said, "All I do all day in the hospital is watch Hertz music," which I played for him the 10 days he didn't know while he was sedated, with these beautiful drone scenes of the world. He says, "I'm trying to figure out why God has me here," because he had a choice this life I was aware of choosing who he would serve, dark or light. He did great things for the community and all that, but on a personal basis, that was his karma to deal with. But at least he had chosen that. So I'm not sure if you can still hear.
Well, so and then so you're picking up damage to people's thymuses. You're picking up damage to their hearts. Other people with a group out of Germany, led by a gentleman by the name of Thomas Meyer. They're very psychic, parasensitive people. They've noted that the auras or the energy fields of the people, many of the people who've taken the jabs, have become more concrete. Instead of being light and vibrating, they've been kind of become denser and darker and thicker.
Yes.
And how do you perceive it when are you getting a visual? Are you sensing something? Are you getting a bit of both and knowing? What does that look like for you?
They actually, good that you asked, Brian, they actually show me inside the body. It's the craziest thing. I didn't ask for that either, but I can see the issue in the body and keep working through it. And I can also feel the difference. For those that are vaxxed, we love them anyway. They didn't know better. So we have to extend compassion to them.
Of course.
They have to deal with what their choices are, their free will choice. We have to respect that. We want ours respected. But we want to help them through their journey, because their body and mind and soul has changed forever. I found in 2015 that the Congress had passed a law. That person now belongs to the company that gave them the vax, because it's been transmuted. It's a transhumanism. And so all these things have happened, but we knew that this would be the process on the planet when we incarnated. We said we could handle it. And so what happens is we brought all the spiritual tools to do so. So A, give them compassion. B, don't waste your breath in the argument, because they can't conceive. They actually try to get rid of the God gene. We all have that God spark inside of us. Well, they snip something else, but that compassion is kind of off or different. And I remember.
Have you been able to assist people in recovering after they've taken these jabs and they've been cut off from source? Have you been able to help them reconnect?
What I do, those that choose to come, yes, and I can see the difference when, because the rods will go. But if they go around a crowd of people again, they inundate themselves again. Innately, that is a transmission issue. So they have to be cautious, and I tell them about the protocols to block all those things. And then I always try to open and inspire them to that spiritual focus. They have got to find a spiritual focus. But I started to, I love research. So in my classes each week, I would ask the people, the students that were in the class, they would notice the same problems with the personality changes of the loved one or people that they would meet. And so it was very apparent. So in those days when the lockdown, I would walk in the aisles as close to people as I could so they could get my energy field. And it was important. I would smile and they would just be shocked with their mask or whatever. But I would just go ahead and make sure they got some of my energy field, because that field inspires. We talked about that a little. That 6 feet apart is because the energy field is usually at least 3 feet. I have seen them larger on a couple of people in my life, but that was amazing because we would now engage with their field. And they didn't want that. So I was making sure I was going to engage as I walked down the aisle of the grocery store. So
Can you share any, just one last question, Brian, Brian, do you have any success stories then, Antonia, where you can say, okay, I had someone, they had heart issues, they had congealed blood, they were spiritually in turmoil, and you assisted them in a way that, that gives some hope here?
Yes, I won't name names either. And I think you know one very carefully. And I did so, and nobody knew that I was doing it. The person that had asked me very carefully had instructed, and it worked that next day. And I could see the energetic change in that person. And it was very strong and apparent. And then someone else took the, the accolades for it. That's okay. I did the work, and I continued even at the end of that person's life to do it. But it was because they had taken so many other components. And that was, but I've noticed that all of a sudden I had this huge referral base, because I don't even have it on the website. It's not there, but people calling from all over the country asking me to do so. And here, when they can, in fact, the one that you look like, Stephen, is a doctor. He knew that I had this, he called me Antonia, the kinetic one. It's back in '82, he saw this happen in his office. When he tried to touch me and electrical energy kept coming from his hands. I said, doctor, I've been under a little stress. But what happened was he called me the kinetic one. And so sure enough, he found he had 4th stage cancer. And this is just last January. And I hadn't talked to him. We're not on social media. He's not very much, rather. And I was sending a Christmas, greeting to he and his wife. That's it. And so sure enough, he said, Antonia, I'm going to get a second opinion. I have 4th stage prostate cancer. And I thought, okay. I said, doc, perhaps you want to give me a call. And so he did. And he and his wife, he said, Antonia, remember her, the kinetic one? And so I told him, I said, look, doc, I've been doing this. I have clients around the world and they come here too, but I can do it remotely because he's, in California. And so sure enough, he said, no, we're coming up there next week or the following to see you. And so he and his wife came, and it was great. For 5 days, they did the treatment with me. The wife watched. She said, I can see something like when you're working, some like white filament or something coming from your hands that you're pulling out. Doctor said he never felt better in his life, and he's still alive today. So I'm just going to suggest or say it works. It's successful. It can work whether they've been through transmission or through the, like I said, the jab itself. The problem is at the beginning, I used to get very sick from jab people. It was way intense for me. But now since it's waning a little bit for them, unless they just took it, I'm fine with it. I do my protections first. My divine connection, I work with Archangel Michael for these healings and Archangel Raphael, on top of the divine cosmos. So we're all like protected, they're protected, the whole shot in that space. So like Dr. Yu was saying, mentally, physically, and spiritually, we're doing these things, but all combined, and we have that connection to do so. Remember, Jesus taught the disciples how to heal. They were just fishing all their life. They didn't have schooling. They didn't have degrees. They were fishermen. And so literally, he taught them how to do so. It's a process, and they never, was it Paul that said, it's not me, it's the divine doing this healing? So it's important that we recognize where it really is coming from, and we're utilizing it to help our loved ones and family, all of humankind. Goosebumps. So Go ahead.
I have another question for you as well. And because I've come across a lot of people that operate in the R&D and they talk about their imaginations are such that they can do a 3D in front of them and actually turn it and see it.
Yes.
So I'm kind of wondering, what does the imagination has to be a big component about what you do, even though it's always downplayed. Oh, that's just your imagination. But that's a huge part of who we are.
I see, and that the 3D is easy for me. 4D as a child, and 5D they've told me about since I was like 20 something. 20
Mhm.
in 82, I was told that I would be soon seen from the 5th dimensional level, and I didn't ask for that. They gave, and so I do what I'm told to do in service. But it is true, I see things in the 3D range, and that alludes to a past life as an architect through Atlantis and all this kind of thing that's been confirmed. So I believe in all those things, but we have to utilize all those talents, all those abilities for humankind, not for ourselves. And so
I have a question on that too, because of I've been classically trained as under a shaman for like 30 years.
yes,
And because you do healing, I'm just curious because I find this consistent in people that do spiritual stuff. Someone has a condition. It's so profound. Almost every time I've ever been in a situation where I had to assist somebody, it's almost like I know it before it happens. Even when it, like if you came to me and you had a condition, it's so weird. The answer to the question comes before even the situation. And I also found out that just like you say, we don't do the healing. The divine principle does it. All we are is like a tuning fork and a conduit, and the person has to not want to be healed or cured. They got to choose to be healed. A choice is an action in the future. A want never happens. I want to pick up a glass of water. It doesn't work that way. What do you choose? And I found it consistently and persistently that I'll never forget when I was in a doctoring circle under apprenticeship. This man came in that had diabetes. And my teacher, he's going under level, bringing in his ancestors and stuff like that. And he grabbed his eagle feathers and he looked at me because he's not even you might say, the catatonic or resonant state of being him. He's you might say, integrated in bringing forth one of his lineage carriers. And he hands me the eagle feathers and he points to the guy. And I don't know. I just instantly knew what to do and healed this guy literally on the spot. And I was kind of profound because I was in a hypnagogic state. I couldn't figure out what the heck was going on. This was like 20 years ago. And then after it was done, I sat back and it just dawned on me, this person came in with this condition and now he's walked out completely healed. And I was in such a state that I wasn't even aware what went down. And my teacher at the time just laughed and chuckled because you're not doing the work. It's the energy working through you. You chose to be in a clear state to let this process come through. I wanted to know if you could elaborate on that stuff because it's so important to the people, the healers out there. They don't realize what's going on here. So.
What is interesting is with the students that choose to come to the class, they feel awkward because they don't think they can do it. They think I'm proficient, but they're not. That's because they're putting themselves first. Forget that. Put yourself back there. Your most important thing is that client you have in front of you or remotely, not you. And you have to do the duty. And if you do the protocols, the manual shows you what protocols are necessary, then you find that benefit. And so my hope is that people will stop. Ego is easy and got out, right? And so you have to stop worrying about how you feel. Just do it. The instructions are there. Trust the divine. Protect as you should. Protect the client. And with that service, but I noticed that they'll shy away. Some will be really good, like I said, in using it, and then they'll stop. But it's up to their. I wanted to learn it so I could teach it. I didn't think I would be doing it. But what we found was with a client I had from. She had diabetes since she was 19 in California, but she knows as a psychic I was really real. She asked me to do this healing for her in her 40s. She had 3 doctors. She was in shock. The first month, just 1 week, the first month she had to cut her medication in half, her insulin. The second month they had to relieve and take away that medication. The third month her doctor said, I don't know what you're doing, but your feet are fantastic. Keep doing whatever you're doing. And all he was doing was work with me. So it actually heals. It doesn't allow the body to heal. It actually does the work. And I tell people just 2 times. And if they don't choose to, I have to follow their free will choice of their own destiny. That's how they're choosing to die or have to go through the process. I have to step back. But those that come and who their referrals are always welcome. And so I try to keep it in a way that we're using these energies divinely from the whole metaphysical, physical world. Metaphysics is the reason, because it's mind as well as spiritual at the same time, and all connected to God or the divine. We are yin yang here. We keep forgetting that process. We are both spiritual and material. The connection of the two gives us that vital energy we need to do our each personal mission and what we promise to do. Goosebumps as I'm saying it. So this is what I trained in this method, so I could teach it to communities, for these safe, sustainable communities, because disasters, the hospital becomes a morgue. And I wanted people to be able to access this ability during these times of disaster, so we could have this healing quality in those safe, sustainable communities worldwide.
Yeah, I also wanted to say one more thing, and then be it. Like we talked a lot about remote viewing and stuff, and I think Dr. Hugh will love this one. You know, we have a right and left hemisphere. We have right and left eyes. We have right and left ears. Look at it like a tuning fork. We're a electromagnetic scalar interferometer. When we set ourselves in motion, and I see this person having a condition, once I've identified who they are, it's like syncing yourself to that individual. So there is actually a scientific relationship here that we're moving ourselves into resonance so that we can coherently bring, balance back into the energy. So I just wanted to bring that up because a lot of people don't take that into consideration. Even in the esoteric tradition of Gnosticism, this here is the Ark of the Covenant. These are the 2 cherubim. And you have the 3 sacred glands right here in the head. In the mercy seat was the rod of Aaron, the 10 Commandments, and the Shem. That's right in here.
This is Kate's teaching on the Revelation as well. That's exactly, it's about us evolving. That's really what it's about. You're on it, Stephen. So my hope is that people will continue this journey forward and continue to grow. I've been ordained 4 times. I've been made a shaman, Mayan shaman, into all this. And I didn't ask. I didn't know that was going to be the process. So the divine put me in those positions. I was just taking the course of the study or doing my job. But in essence, a lady came, and she used to be a pharmaceutical nurse, I think it was, in the hospitals. And she got away from that. She saw what they were doing. She came to me for a healing with her partner. And I noticed there was a problem in the sinus areas, which is this psychic centers as well. And so I started to clear it. And she said, oh my God, it feels like a furnace. I'm not touching her. Just a furnace going through and so they were fine. So they did the protocols or whatever. And it usually takes at least 3 visits for the people to be cleared of the garbage from the jab. And then they hopefully will do their protocols and all that good stuff. But it's important that we remember whatever talent we have in teaching and sharing and talking and inspiring. Our job is every 8 billion one of the souls that are also here with us. We promised, no matter what their differences in thought, forget that garbage, divide and conquer concept. We love them anyway. They are a part of us, as Dr. Yu just said. It's a component of all of us and part of the cosmos. Goosebumps again. We are a part of the greater cosmos. So
touching on some things, like I do see people and when they need healing. The individuals that have gotten the jab, it depends on how many they've gotten.
Yes.
And the way it is presented to me is we're all very colorful. They're more black and white or gray. And the darker you get, you're really in a serious spot, and it gets more difficult to do any type of reversal. That's just from what I know and knowledge. But if you start to take some of the protocols with supplements and some other things, and you change that, we're talking about frequency and vibration. That's in light. The rainbow light, your aura or your whatever, it's multiple frequencies, multiple vibrations. They literally change this transhuman as a big old finger to God, because that's blasphemy. And one of the things I questioned, and I'm not talking, I don't necessarily go with the good book or whatever, but it's Judeo-Christian, and I do my own spiritual thing with God. If, technically, if you want to go with the book, because you messed around with what God created, when you pass on some of these individuals, they may not be able to go anywhere except to avoid, because only God's creation is allowed in heaven. Now, I don't speak for God. So God makes that decision. I'll never speak for God whatsoever. But it gets a little bit, scary at certain points. I am very happy that people are waking up. But in regards to what Stephen once said, I was sitting someplace just trying to watch something I recorded, nobody around. And then the other half came over and was talking about a friend of theirs. And while she had this headache and whatever, instantaneously, I knew what was wrong with her. And when you get an instantaneous thought, that's the answer.
Exactly.
Don't think any more about it. Write it down. Then you may want to work, but it'll all go back to that. And I said, she has MS. And she said, no, they already tested for that. Well, a month later, she comes over and she goes, how'd you know that? And I'm like, know what? I'm trying to do the same thing. How'd you know it? And I'm like, you coming to me without context. I'm trying to watch something. What are you talking about? She said, how did you know she had MS? And because she does. And I said, if I told you, you wouldn't believe me.
I would just say, that's exactly, Brian. I just would do a psychic reading and they would tell me the person has cancer or the fallopian tubes or a cyst or fibroid or a tumor. And I would tell them. And that's how I started in all this since the 70s.
In here.
Exactly.
I don't know the full protocols you do. I do the best healing I can do. And a lot of times when you work with others, and that praying for someone is the focus of a giant beam of the source and energy. And that is so powerful. It does have a helpful thing, but I can do things with, I do this all the time. And, with my aunt, selenite, great little object right here, selenite.
Quartz, because it's real, and quartz actually has a life on other planets.
Yeah, and that's energy and piezoelectric. But it's when you take something and I did this to my aunt. She had really bad skeletal problems in the back, and I just had this big piece of selenite in my pocket. I'm like, I always, when I go for a medical exam, I'm like, I got to take my pants off. I got rocks in my pocket, and they laugh. I'm like, no, here.
I call it my rock.
Yeah. I bring them out and I show them, like, okay, take them off. But when I was doing it, she was literally saying, ooh, what are you doing? I feel warmth. And I'm like, trying to explain this to people that, pardon the expression, are so gullible they don't do the research, and then they get injected with other things, is you can't explain it. They won't believe it. They think it's hocus pocus and woo-woo stuff, but it's real.
It's part of the programming that's been around.
Right.
For a long time. But I always use the Aramaic text, or the Aramaic Bible by Dr. George Lamsa since 1977. It was the actual language Jesus spoke. Without he found 12,000 errors in the King James version. And if you will go to Casey's material, he goes deeper into every soul goes toward the astral plane. Now, when they do the ayahuasca or the LSD, when they were doing that in the 40s or 50s or whatever those tests, they go to the lower realms. That's it. The lower astral realms. It's junk. What we want to do is go to the higher astral realm. The same thing. You want to go to the higher astral realms. You don't need any of that. You do it on your own. And so what ends up happening is people want to do the shortcut or the microwave way. But what happens is Casey talks about in depth about our origin, how we actually came, what actually happened in deep trance. And remember, he was still in. So the archangelic realm spoke through him for our evolution, and Source did. So it doesn't matter how we believe, as long as we believe. Religion talks about everybody else's experience with God. Spirituality is you building a one-on-one relationship with God in your own way, not on one day a week, Saturday or Sunday. It's throughout your existence. You build that one-on-one is what spiritual people have promised in our own experience.
Yeah, what people don't realize is, even if you don't have a belief in God, like it or not, folks, when you go down and lay to rest, that's when you connect.
That's correct.
That is the one point where all the static that's around you disappears, And when you're in REM or whatever, you're having those dreams. I always said there are dreams and then there is experiences, and you upload to source. They downloads things you're going to do back to you. And then you go through your life the next day. And if you remember in detail, you actually did it, because sometimes they need light workers to work for them.
Yeah.
Wake up just as tired as like, oh my God, I didn't get any sleep. I am exhausted, because you're doing something. And you don't, and your body remembers, your consciousness and your soul remembers this, so that it transfers to your muscles. You're like, oh God, feels like I was lifting up boulders, and you were, but out of your body. Once you can call it whatever you want, God or whatever, the source, whatever you want, divine. Once you connect to that and you really are connected, and I love Archangel Michael, definitely. And there's no going back. You don't understand how great this is. And it doesn't have to just be Jesus. If you just believe, and then you'll see miracles that totally take place, and you'll start vibrating at a higher frequency.
Actually, if they really want to know the truth about those matters, if there's all these extrapolations out there in the world, the Casey material, and the soul we call Jesus was the actual first soul that God created throughout the multiverse. The very first. That's our big brother that still tried to show us the way. The last incarnation that he chose as human, he didn't have to. We were going soaring through the multiverse, all these other planets and everything, till we screwed up here on Earth. So we were granted this opportunity. That's what born again really means, to try again to align with the divine. But what ends up happening is people want to fight their battles. But Casey goes into distinct information, and he was shocked. He said, "You mean I have to teach about reincarnation in Sunday school this week?" Because they would talk about the past lives of the people that he was dealing with in depth, in detail. So how can I say, all those changes about what Jesus looked like, he had it down pat. The archangels gave it. And so it was not just that life of Jesus, it was the soul that was created to bring us back to soul alignment to God Creator. So ultimately, each in their own time, Casey says, be patient with them, each in their own way. And so all paths lead to the one, but just your energy field of that knowledge. But people, we don't want them, like when they pass and they don't believe in God, they still go to the astral plane. They still go. But the problem is they will have their life review. Casey says by the third day or the 11th day, and they'll go, oh, shoot, oh. And they'll start to plan what they got to fix in the next life and go to classes. But those that are agnostic or actually the atheists, unfortunately, those souls don't believe that anything exists. They'll lay for 300, 500 years, Earth time is only relevant on the Earth, and look and say, oh, it must be a dream, and go back. Those souls have to wake up because they're part of us. They're part of the whole. That's a part of us that is the cells of us that aren't working. So they hold us back selfishly. But you want to go to the higher planes of the astral realm. And ultimately, that's what we're being taught. This is Earth school. That's it. It's a school. We go home to where we really live. And Casey confirms there is no death, birth in the spiritual or birth in the physical, save for the transition. We are a soul that is encased right now in this dense body because we made some mistakes. That body is becoming lighter. Our ability is becoming more telepathic at this time in the world, as the world is greatly changing in these last few days. Not only Chinese Lunar New Year, but literally, how can I say it, for the fact that this great change of Saturn conjunct Neptune in Aries, a brand new beginning that hasn't been seen for more than 6,000 years. So we're all on the precipice of a brand new world and brand new individual life. Forgive everything that happened in the past. Don't let that garbage happen again. And we move forward as we build this new life. This understanding that Dr. Yu is bringing, Brian, you're bringing, Joan, and your belief set, Stephen, all of us, Brian, everything, Penny, is to open us so we can now do it correctly and properly. Casey saw ahead that we'd actually achieve it. So I'm thrilled to be here at this time. We got to keep working.
I'm going to bring in, just have a few more minutes, but I do want people to take a look at your website.
Thank you.
And it is Antonia, I keep wanting to say Antonia, Lau.org. If you really want to know and understand what's going on in the world and what you need to handle the reality, please scroll down, click, and learn with Antonia Lau, host of Beyond Here and Now. Do you still have that show?
Yes, I still do it when I feel like. I used to do 3 a week, but it's my show. I created it. I own it. And so I do it when I'm guided to do so.
So here is spiritual growth and awareness, professional psychic readings, and learn the truth. You got a lot on here about the 1918 Spanish flu epidemic. Professor states those who took the jab must isolate over the winter. This was in 2021, or risk serious illness. Again, 2021, worldwide, 35 groups of 100, hundreds of researchers, lawyers, and physicians mandate stop to jab. I mean, it's just, this is full of, here's Edgar Casey confirms the past lives of Jesus. And let me just go to your talk show. Okay, so here's the Beyond Here and Now with Antonia Lau radio show. And it's an award-winning radio talk show that garners over 200,000 listeners worldwide per week. And it was created by you. And the show rids myths and misconceptions about the world around you and your place in it, based on confirmed metaphysical spiritual principles. After deep research, study, and practice for over 40 years, the show airs worldwide at www.indie100.com. And so you can find that there. Lots of different, here's Body and Soul for Soul Growth. Lots of world changes, free workshop videos, earth changes, properly prepare, accurate forecasts about the world. Here's some of the services: psychic readings, shop soul essentials. And this is choosing only the best and most accurate information. Here you've got mind and spirit, food and water, safe shelter. Is this the safe shelter you were talking about? And so we've got, let me just go in there. No, it's not clicking.
So click. Basically, if that I was guided to, so they can be aware of those things. What I find is people are wasting lots of money elsewhere. But my workshop videos are free. It's actually broken out into 12 pieces in order, chronological order. There you are. Safe, sustainable system. They can be buried. So you can scroll down to see more look of how the appearance is.
Cool.
And it goes up in 30 minutes, 6-inch thick walls, R42 insulation. So whether it's desert or whether it's Arctic, it'll work. And so you can expand them to make larger sizes of shopping centers, airports, medical centers, schools, and they can be engaged. So ultimately, this is, you can put a whole community together, 4 people in over a weekend. This is the kind of floor to ceiling, no skill.
Are you anticipating some drastic changes?
Not anticipating. Actually, I was given direct detail back, and when I tried to disprove it in the mid-70s about these earth changes, and more detail was given. I was shocked. I was trying to disprove it, but scientifically, geologically, geographically, I looked and all studied and researched metaphysically, spiritually, and found it was real. And I was given that information. We're right in the midst of it. It's not 30 years off. They keep trying to tell people that so they can control them more. They don't really.
Was it 30 years off when you first found out about it, like 30 years ago?
It was actually in the mid-70s, and I was telling people, and then all of a sudden I said, well, we're going to have volcanoes going off in the U.S., and they would laugh. Antonia, you're just so weird. And we had Mount St. Helens go off in 1980, May, and it killed everything within 5 miles of the direction it blew. We always have, scientists knew we have for thousands of years, 20 to 25 active volcanoes per year. And what we found was now today, there's over 2,300 currently active volcanoes with several erupting at once. Because
that's a lot.
Yes, it's for soul growth for the earth. She's growing to inspire our growth, mind, body, and soul. And it's happened many times before. We've been through this before. That's why we're here, we excel. And the point is, I was guided to what is safe. They have to watch because there's a lot of disinformation out there. At least more are talking about it, but one was talking about it in the 80s when I was talking about it. In 2000, I started to give lectures around the world on this. And people went, and Daniel Brinkley, I was doing talks with the same co-speaker with him and others. And they said, nobody is telling us the truth here in this conference except for her. So they were demanding I go again. But the point was, I have it in the workshop. So it's not to have fear. We're here to survive, thrive, and rebuild for generations to come. That's the whole purpose here. And we've
It's
done
cleansing too.
It's finally going to the vibratory rate we're supposed to and the spiritual level that we're supposed to be at. We're doing it.
We already know that the elites have been building bunkers in preparation for some cataclysmic event, possibly World War III, which they're trying vehemently to make happen. Antonia, thank you so very much for being with us. Just very appreciated. I talked to you offline for, I don't know, about an hour. I see the light in you. I see no guile. I think you're absolutely the real deal. I'm so appreciative of you. And again, tell people where they can find your website and your other endeavors.
In AntoniaLau.org. I have some things on YouTube at Beyond the Here and Now, Earth Changes, or the radio show I've been able to put up. I have an archive website for some of the shows that are most important under Beyond the Here and Now podcast, because I took some of the most important out of the radio station. So ultimately, how can I say it? They can always contact me at info@antonialau.org altogether, or they can contact me 818-457-6880 if they choose.
Excellent. Sir Brian?
Yes.
Thank you for joining us always and being consistent.
It's
thank
a
you for being
pleasure.
a guest on the Wake Nation. Where can people find you? And you have a final comment?
Yeah, my spirit guides all drink heavily. But other than that, you can find me Awake Nation 9:30 to 10 a.m. Thursdays. I will be here at Agent X11, 12 to whenever we end, because that's what my kidnappers told me to say. But my primary show is I'm not doing interviews or filming for something. I have my show called Third Eye Live, and it's how your third eye, your consciousness, your intuitiveness, messaging, whatever, led you on the path you are on. And that's Wednesdays, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Please like, subscribe, share. It's free. And who knows? You may enjoy it.
Well, I did. I watched you last night. It was very, very enjoyable. And I don't have time to actually watch a lot of shows, but yours is one I make an exception for. Steven Sanchez, you are a actual NASA rocket scientist and a rock star drummer. So tell people where they can find you.
Okay, I just use my email. It's the number 1 and then one word, goldentiger@gmail.com. And yeah.
And thank you for being on Dr. Yu's Universe. Dr. Yu, where can people find you?
You can find me either my NASA email, that's wayping.yu@nasa.gov. So that's but my social media, so that's the Twitter handle or X handle, that's @real DRYU, so @real Dr. U.
And then they can also find you all over the place on social media and various shows, Redacted. And have you been on Tucker Carlson yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, well, that's going to happen for sure. And Brian Singh, Solar Bee, where can people find you?
Every Thursday morning here on Agent X11, and online, mostly on Facebook right now. Just type in my name, Brian Sang, and add my nickname, Solar Bee, and reach out to me directly.
Excellent. And Joan Renee, my co-host with the mostest, where can people find you?
Well, obviously, you can find me here on Agent X11. You can also find me on Trauma Triage, where I co-host with Heather Day. And you can find me on the Awake Nation on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I have a show called Life with Joan that has just started, so you can find me every other Tuesday. And then you can also find me on X, Joan Renee 27. And I wanted to thank Antonia because honestly, I think your information not only was valuable to the audience, but you have some rocket scientists here and you didn't get any pushback at all.
That was very kind, Joan. Thank you so much.
And I thank our entire team. I thank each and every person that helps us on our shows. This is our mission, and I think everyone that's here knows that is our mission. And then I'm also going to ask if you like what we're producing and you think that you might be able to help us out. We want to make sure that we can sustain through this year. Please donate. We rely on donations, and you can go to GiveSendGo/Zublik and donate there. And then I also want to say thank you to David Zublik, who is my partner. Without him, there would be so much that would not be possible that is made possible now by him, because he is the person behind. He asked me to be his executive producer, and 4 years ago, and we've just flourished in shows. He's now doing another segment called The Damn Straight Show. We do Awake Nation News, we do Awake Nation, we do Agent X11, we do the Trauma Triage Team, and we're providing a place for where whistleblowers, but also people with knowledge, can come and speak their truth and speak the truth. And so I just want to say I'm very thankful for each and every one of you that watches all of the shows that we provide, and also all of you that are part of these shows and disseminating information. It's very important. So I thank you all. Please like, share, and subscribe. You can find me if you decide that you'd like to be a guest. You think you might be a guest on any of the shows: the Awake Nation News, Agent X11, Trauma Triage Team, Awake Nation, Damn Straight Show. We just had Judge Joe Brown on the Damn Straight Show. He's incredible. He's going to be running for mayor. And so if you think that you might want to be a guest, please contact me. Text my phone at 619-779-9771. That's 619-779-9771. And I want to thank all of you that donate to help this endeavor, because we need your participation in order for us to move forward. Thank you again. And please like, share, and subscribe. We will see you tomorrow. We have 3 Agent X11s tomorrow. We have one with Skip Press, and Skip Press is Saving Grace. He's going to be talking about the auspices of religion and how all that came about. And so I'm going to just, as we exit, I'm going to play Skip's segment because it's very important. And I just want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing. And please like, share, and subscribe. But for now, we are out of time. So we are out of here. Shepherd out.
Solar be out.
Renee out.
Dr. You out.
Antonia. Antonia.
All of you, really?
And
Brian?
Sorry, I had to mute on.
Okay, well, everybody out of the pool. Just do it. Okay, we're out of here.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound from sea to shining sea. While overcoming life's shipwreck plans, God's love watches over me. When we've been here 10,000 years and truth illuminates your life through shifting sands and oceans of tears, God's enduring grace survives. Oh, the transcendent American spirit, seeking grace so true. From the old world's holy fires to the new world's endless blue. Through trials and tribulations, revelations in the land of the free, we're still chasing heaven's whispers in this wild eternity. Seeking grace is our passageway to the King of Kings. The transcendent American spirit of liberty and freedom rings from the cross on Calvary's hill, where Jesus bled and died, to the Vatican's ancient halls, where faith was oft decried. From Martin Luther King to the final turning point of Charlie Kirk, assassins' bullets took their lives. This is how the darkness American spirit of liberty and freedom rings. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound from sea to shining sea. While overcoming life's shipwreck plans, God's love watches over me. When we've been here 10,000 years and truth illuminates your life through shifting sands and oceans of tears, God's enduring grace survives. God's enduring grace survives. Hey!
Goodbye for now from Agent X11, Hollywood dark journalist, a shining light in this darkened world. And don't forget to watch the Wake Nation News 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Eastern on the David Zubik channel on Rumble, followed by our main show, David Zubik's The Wake Nation, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday.